I was a student at McGill in the mid 60s, and after about 3 years, I quit. And I quit because I felt there was a big gap, a lack of coherence between what I was studying and what I saw as the needs around me. In those days, there was a strong undercurrent among the young people of a strong desire for peace, for justice, very idealistic. But I was thinking, studying in order to become someone who served the rich, so to speak, didn't seem like a very useful way to spend my life. And it bothered me so much, I quit school for 3 years, wandered around Canada, and finally, after not really being able to accomplish much in the way of toward the ideals I had, I realized I had to go back to school and really finish my education. A wonderful surprise when I got back, Joe Baker was there, and he had established at the school a community design workshop and programs whereby I could translate my youthful idealism and zeal. My education and my desire to do things had become one, thanks to Joe Baker. He didn't just think about something or talk about it theoretically. There's a scene in the Griffintown NFB film where he's looking at some old buildings and saying, "C'est pas acceptable." He's looking at this rundown house saying it's not acceptable. And he was not apathetic, he was not complacent. He actually got up and did something about what he saw was a need. He channeled his energy and the energy of many others. He created instruments where many others as well could address those needs. And I think that's his great contribution. That was my experience of Joe Baker. Others among my classmates went on to do quite specific things related to housing and urban redevelopment. I took my idealism took me to China, where I am right now, making this little film. And about 30 years in China, another aspect of a desire to have a better world is how can the East and West come together, understand each other better. So the opportunity to have some of that idealism encouraged rather than stifled is something I'll be forever grateful to Joe Baker to have created the opportunity for that to happen. When it was time to do a course, for example, Joe just said, well, go down to the neighborhoods and see what you can do. In the spring of 1972, as part of this community design workshop program, Peter Sipkus and I did a study of Point St. Charles to see how open spaces might be better used. The survey included an axonometric map of the area traced over a city map. Peter and I rode around on our bicycles on every street and recorded the number of floors of every building, and so I could put that information into the map. We used the map as an interactive tool to talk to children, for example, about where do you play, where do you live. They could easily relate to this 3D picture map, whereas they had difficulty sometimes reading a two-dimensional map. To put some of our ideas into practice for the use of open space in the area, Peter and I obtained a federal government grant through a program called Opportunities for Youth. So that spirit of identifying needs and responding to them had spread to this program of the federal government to create employment for youth in the summer. And Peter and I tapped into that. We were awarded funds to translate our proposal into action, to hire local students in Point St. Charles to create adventure playgrounds and vegetable gardens on some of the unused land that we had identified in our study of Point St. Charles. So we went to a local community office and met a person called Ernie Vaudry, asked him at the beginning of the summer, can you find us 30 young people to work on this project? And the following Monday, there they were, and off we went. The idea of the adventure playgrounds was to have a variety of building materials available on the site. Then the children could come and build whatever they liked. The students we hired would help them do that. And it's a wild, ongoing cacophony of a variety of things, construction, deconstruction, and the structures that were built on the site became the background for storytelling and filmmaking. And the films were shown in the evening. Parents would come, sit around, watch it being projected on the wall of the house beside the playground, and enjoy their children performing, enjoy spaghetti cooked on an open fire, hot dogs, hamburgers, etc. It was a very, very dynamic place. When we proposed the idea of community gardens, people told us it's probably not going to work. People will destroy it, and people will steal the food, etc., etc. But we went ahead, and it was interesting. At one point, a guy called Peanut, big muscles and tattoos and long hair, a bit of it actually scared me. But he was one of our employees, and he offered to make a shrine to protect our gardens. And he built this really interesting staircase leading to a little chapel made out of scrap lumber. And who knows? It worked. No one stole one tomato from our gardens, and we were able to give it all to the local food banks. We also set up a backyard cleanup service. Peter and I would often meet for lunch at a small Indian restaurant on Wellington Street and commiserate and recap, and we'd often play an Anne Murray song on the jukebox. It takes time to move a mountain. Sometimes it's very difficult to manage these 30 energetic young people. We wrote a report about our project called Adventure Playgrounds, Green Thumbs and Sore Thumbs. So these were some of the ways in which, downstream from Joe Baker's initiative, these other creative things happened, which really were experiences I know for Peter and I were very meaningful, have stayed with us for the rest of our lives. So there are many, many ways in which we are forever grateful to Joe Baker for his creative contribution to our lives. Thank you, Joe.